Hello friends, it's Simone, your favorite neighborhood nerd with my 31 inks, 31 pens, 31 letters update for this past week. Today is Thursday, so I'm showing you, I don't even know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pens from Friday to Thursday. Why does it feel like it doesn't make sense? It doesn't matter. I haven't talked about any of these pens yet. I want to show them to you. I want to tell you about my experience with them. I'm going to talk about the Sailor King of Pen, the Esterbrook Estie, the Walltown What's, the Pilot Vanishing Point, the Lamy Allstar, this Mayfair pens Vanyar, my Pilot Custom 74, and this Benu Euphoria. Before I'm going to dive into these pens, I just want to give you a quick update on how this experiment project feels on day 17. I'm still enjoying the project as a whole. I went on a teeny tiny camping trip over the weekend, and I wasn't sure whether I was just going to skip the days or whether I was going to ink them up later. I had hoped to ink up my Saturday pen before I left, but that just didn't work out. But when I came back on Sunday night, I just needed some alone time. And that's when I inked up my Saturday and Sunday pens. And it was the perfect amount of time to be spending with my pens, the inks, in my hobby, in my studio here. And then I went to bed. And it felt good. I did not write the postcards at that time. I wrote them, I think, on Tuesday. So I'm not too concerned with, do I really write the postcard on the exact day that I ink the pen? That is not what I'm after. I am after, when I have the time, I'm writing the postcard with the pen from that day, and then I send it out, and at the end of the month, or hopefully the first week of November, I will have sent out 31 postcards. And it doesn't really matter if it's sent out on that specific date. So I did not want to, it was a great experiment to leave my project behind, not be caught up, because I felt a tiny bit stressed, and I thought it was a good learning experience for me to let go of that stress, because this is my hobby. This is supposed to bring me joy. I don't want to be stressing about this. So let me put the pens up here and open my journal. And then another aside, one tiny thing. I wasn't finished with my first thing that I wanted to say. The other thing that I wanted to say about this project is that every morning when I'm taking the 5 to 10 minutes that it takes me to swatch my inks, to fill the pen, to test if the pen is writing, and then most of the time I'm writing the snippet, but not every time, because sometimes I am in a time crunch and I need to leave, so I just leave this for when I get back. But it brings me so much joy to start my day with that inking, and I'm trying to push aside the knowledge that I'll have to clean all of those pens at some point, that I'm not getting the most. I don't really know what that actually is, but sometimes this thought of I'm not getting the most out of this pen and ink pairing or this inking, I am trying to push those thoughts aside, because this process is joyful. I am having a really good time in October. I feel good after doing this in the morning. Maybe other people write morning pages. I'm currently not. I wish I was, but I also feel like this is setting me in a really good mood. And so I'm going to do this for October, and maybe I'm going to do morning pages in November. So that is what I wanted to say. Doing this swatch in the morning, writing one of those cards, adding an ink swatch into this book. This is the 3 things that I do. Fills me with a lot of joy. And I'm really excited and happy that I leave my house when I go to work with a cup that is full of joy. So the other thing, I received a comment on my last video. Wow. I'm sorry that I'm blanking right now. Where someone said, why is your Diamine Safari so dark? And I have a perfect example about that right here. And they said, this ink is one of my favorites. I'm rephrasing. I have it in a Platinum 3776 medium, and it writes completely different. And I can just say that, yes, that is correct. Depending on the flow of your pen, the ink color that will be put on the page will be different. Also, depending on the paper that you are using, the ink color that the pen puts on the page will be different. This is Cosmo Air Light paper. Most pens feel broader on this paper. Most colors are more saturated on this paper. And I can show this to you right here because I actually had tested my own Platinum 3776 in extra fine with a monoline nib grind on it, with the same ink that I put into my Sailor Pro Gear Slim with a fine nib on October 1st. So here is the swatch of the ink. This is how this ink looks like when I'm writing on Cosmo Air Light paper with the Sailor Pro Gear Slim. This is how the exact same ink looks when I am using the Platinum 3776 with a monoline nib. The line width is almost the same. The only difference is that the flow of how the ink flows through the feed and the nib is different. This puts down less ink than this. And then I decided, okay, let me check this on, let me double check and put it on Tomoya River paper. And this is what it looks like. It gave me confirmation that I should probably let go of this pen. I do not enjoy how different the ink flow is. Maybe you yourself, like I, or a Nibmeister could make the ink flow wetter, but I have, for my personal collection, I have other pens that I would gravitate towards more than this. And so I made the decision after testing this that I would let it go. I have already packaged it up. It's going out tomorrow. And I'll see how my friend likes it, because it is nice. It's just not as nice as the other pens in my collection. So let us, after all of this, it is 8 minutes in. I'm so sorry about all of those long videos. No, actually, I'm not. I really love talking about fountain pens. Let's start. On Thursday, October 10th, I inked up the Sailor Pro Gear King of Pens with a broad nib. This is just the standard regular black model with gold trim. It has a two-toned nib and it looks fantastic in my opinion. And with Kobe number 45 Hachibuse Silhouette Green. Right from the start, I'm noticing two things. The color is okay, but I don't think it's a color for me. And the ink kind of gushes out of the pen. So I'm not sure if I would like the ink better in a drier flowing pen. Sample is empty though, so I'm not impressed with the writing experience, which is a first. I need to treat it as that instead of going crazy and selling the pen. That is an overreaction in this case. It doesn't really make sense to me right now. I think this is the first time that I did not have a good writing experience with this pen. And so I need to treat it as a first and an incident. And sometimes I'm really quick to let a pen go and sell it when I don't have a bad writing experience with one ink. And that is what I think I said. Adding, writing on the postcard felt great, and writing on Tomoe River paper makes it still wet, but adds just a tiny bit of feedback that is enjoyable. I think the other thing that was missing here was the feedback. And I actually also rated this with 5 stars. 5, whatever. I don't know if it's stars. Ink got a 5. It's just not really my colors. The flow a 7 because it was so wet that it was too much, and the pen an 8 this time around. I also find that this color is very, very similar, almost identical. No, this is a little bit more olive. Maybe that's why I like this better. The Sailor 2024 Pen Show ink. And then I also felt like it's almost indistinguishable from Kobe number 34, Suraquan Tea Green. And I seem to be leaning towards the olivey colors more than these swampy colors that have less yellow in them. So that is something that I can gladly empty out after I'm done with this video. The next ink that I filled into a pen was Montblanc Irish Green, and I put it into the Esterbrook Estie Funky Lake. This is just such a color contrast that is cringeworthy. Makes my teeth grind. I have a random, oh, this is actually a medium nib, I believe. Yes. Okay, let's change that. I thought it was a fine, but it's a medium nib. So I think I thought this was a fine nib, and that's why it's an unbranded nib. I do have quite a few Esterbrook medium nibs. I could put that on here, but I really am not fussy about mixing trim colors, putting unbranded nibs on pens. That is something that isn't really a thing for me. In the swatch, this color did not particularly wow me, but I'm liking the writing I get from the pen. The flow is good, just the way I like it, and the pen, I mean, it's an Estie in my favorite color. What else do I need to say? The ink I gave an 8, the flow a 10, and the pen a 10. I'm not usually gravitating towards these greens. Grass greens, Lierre Sauvage, I think is some green growing stuff. It's similar, but not the same. I think if this was an easily accessible ink, I would probably swap out this. I have a bottle of Jacques Urbain Lierre Sauvage. I don't have a writing sample of that at them. Maybe I should have one, right? Oh, right here. It is very similar. I would even say it's indistinguishable, especially in the writing. It is not noticeable which color this is, and since I have already one in my stash, I would not buy this ink. However, every time I use these types of greens, I am surprised at how much I actually like the writing in comparison to the swatch. And now we are going into the almost same colors, but not the same. I inked my Walltown Watts with in the Sebastian blank from Turn Penco, I believe. With that, I have my Monarch nib from Shown Design. This is a medium nib. I have permanently, in quotation marks, paired this nib with this pen, as I really enjoy how they work with each other. I have inked this with a sample that I received from my friend Amy when she brought back several inks from Japan. I think this one is also from, I believe, from my friend Amy, but I think she bought that. This is from Japan, and this one as well. This is Sailor Ink Konon Numa. She bought that at Itoya. I'm not 100% familiar or knowledgeable about what the ink color name is and where what goes. I just wrote it the same as it was written on the sample. And I have to say, this ink color is fabulous, just so moody and dark. I believe, now that I look at it in bright daylight, it looks like a gray that leans bluish. And then the blue-green undertones, perfect. It might be drier because it does work well with the Monarch nib. I often have inks gushing out of this nib when I'm putting in really wet inks. The pen is just my kind of happiness in a pen. So ink is a 10, flow is an 8, because it felt kind of draggy, and the pen is a 9. And the reason why I didn't give it a 10 is because sometimes I feel like this section is just a tiny bit too narrow, even though the whole pen is such a chunky pen. The section doesn't is not, which is weird because the pen is so fat. I pulled out, did I find any similar colors? I didn't even look for many. No, I did not. And you can, I hope you can see it, how different the colors look on the paper. On here, it is much greener than on here, which is more blue. And I sorted this into a color rainbow by these swatch cards. So that's why sometimes maybe they are a little bit wonky. And then I inked my palette Vanishing Point in deep yellow with a medium gold nib, 18 karat gold nib, with Waterman Harmonious green. And I'm just going to read what I wrote because this ink surprised me. Oh, I thought this color was a little too bright, but I like it better in a pen than I thought. The flow is very wet, but this works out great for the Vanishing Point. I unfortunately don't have my new Pilot VP body yet, so I'll need to see how it fares in the Moonman body until Wednesday. I like the Moonman body, it just made the extra fine nib unit dry out. I wrote unit with a J. Yeah, the new Pilot Vanishing Point body came, and so I swapped it back in here. I thought I would like the matte finish of the black, and I do, but I actually really prefer this slicker model. So the ink I gave a 9, the flow a 10, and the pen a 9. I always have to adjust my writing angle in the beginning to find what works best for me. And that Harmonious green is just so lovely. Like, ugh. And I find it looks very similar to one of these Pilot Iroshizuku inks. I don't know if Suro is the best representation. It's very similar. There might be one that is even closer, but Pilot Iroshizuku has so many inks in this color range, the teals and blue greens, green blues, that, and this is so much more affordable than this. So if I don't even know what inks I have. Let me check. Did I purchase Cioro? Yes. I have Cioro, but if I didn't have this one, I would probably go for this one because it performs extremely well. The ink color is lovely. The flow is great. What else do you want in an ink? Like, really? So is Waterman, yeah, right here. I wanted to show you my blue greens. There's a lot. I love a lot. This is the Konon Numa right up here. This one is that color that is coming up next. And then Aurora Borealis is right here. They're all so similar and yet so different. This is Cioro. So here it looks totally different. Is there another? Now I'm confused. I thought there was another Pilot Iroshizuku ink that was more leaning towards this green, but I don't have the name in my head right now. So I pulled out Pilot Iroshizuku, Cioro. Then we'll get to Sailor Hankyu Hana Asagi in the Lamy Allstar Petrol. Where is it? Right here with a 14 karat fine rose gold nib. I don't really think it matters. Well, it doesn't have a breather hole and it feels a little bit stiffer than the actual gold nib. I really can't tell if that makes this pen feel stiffer or a nib feel stiffer than the other one. I'm always drawn to the same colors. This one reminds me a lot of my new Kiwi Inks Harvest Forest. The flow in the pen is great. This 14 karat fine nib is exactly how I like it, precise and still juicy. The nib feels somehow stiffer and a bit rough, so I might need to check for misalignment. Monday pens are always used when I'm tired, so they never get the best scores. Also, I think the color in this pen is almost too dark. Yeah. It sums it up perfectly. I gave the ink an 8. I think it's too dark for me. The base color, possibly because of the fine nib, doesn't come through. The flow, an 8. It's great, but not perfect. And the pen, an 8, because, as I said, I love my Lamy Safaris, or the grip of the Lamy Safaris, Allstars, LXs, but it's not the most comfortable. It's just the most, I'm the most used to it because I used it so much during my school years. So it always feels like a comfort grip in the sense of that it feels like home, but it's not necessarily the best. So I'm going to unink this pen as well. I could, in theory, unink all of the pens because I really want to ink other inks into my pens in November. And I mean, I have 17 pens inked, almost 17 pens inked. I'm not really having an opportunity to use them all the time. That's where I'm in conflict with what I said earlier. Like, do I just clean it out and that's it? I don't know. This is the controversial part of that whole project. So, this pen. I can't believe that I bought another one of these pens. I bought the pocket size. It's called Naria. When I'm not even sure that I really like the shape of this grip section, but it was just so appealing to me, and I have plans for it, and I will let you in on those plans once the new pen is here. But I inked this Mayfair Pens Vanyar. I called it Yellow Swirl. This is a blank from Enigma Stationery, and this one is a turned Penco blank. You know, I can be a nice person and tell you exactly. Turned Penco Moonlit Waters is what this resin is called, in case you like it and you would like a pen for yourself from it. This is one of those colors that I used in the very beginning of my fountain pen journey. Oh, I inked it with Diamine Aurora Borealis, but never bought a bottle even though I loved the color. This is very similar to Hana Asagi, and I wonder how it compares to Harvest Forest. The flow in this nib is okay, not super wet, but that's okay. I definitely enjoy the dark ink in this pen better and don't feel like I have to death grip the pen. I had previously put in Colorverse San Francisco Bay, which it feels so weird to me that every video that I watch, this ink looks so much darker than it is for me. And it felt washed out. And I didn't know whether it was the nib or the pen or what made me, I felt like I had to press harder to make it darker or something. And that didn't go well with the grip here. So the finer nib plus the darker ink make this pen definitely more comfortable. However, I do still notice when I use it and write with it that I often have my pinky, not my pinky, what the heck? Is it my pointer finger? That's not, the pinky is this one, right? And this one is right here on this edge. And this is a very sharp, well, very sharp. You're not going to rip your finger open, but it is sharper than a rounded edge would be like here. This is not as sharp as this here. So I'm still trying to figure out what I want this pen to be. But I love this ink and I don't really know why I don't have it in my collection yet. The ink is a 10, the flow is an 8, the pen is an 8. This is Sailor Hankyu Hana Asagi. It does not have any sheen on this cardstock. That is so weird. And it's greener here as well. Diamine Aurora Borealis is super duper similar to this ink. And especially because this is really hard to get and it's probably so much more expensive, this one would be a great alternative for me. And this is Kiwi Ink's Haunted Forest. It's much greener and it has a bigger black sheen on it, even on the cardstock here. So I don't think that it's the same, or even here close. So yeah, I gave the ink a 10. I gave the flow an 8 and the pen an 8. This is an ink that I probably would purchase a bottle of. I will have to do some, you know, let's check for what bottle do I have in my collection already. This on this Tomoe River paper, Sioro looks so similar to Aurora Borealis too. I don't know. Man, I really don't. Let me know what your experience is with Aurora Borealis compared to Sioro. Maybe it just looks similar here and it's not in reality. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. I do love these colors and I have decided that in this specific round, I am not going to give away all of the samples just because I have used them. Maybe that's going to be a bad idea, but it's not something that I regret at the moment. Keeping ink samples and then still having 150 or so. Well, at the end of September, I had 110. I got my Pilot Vanishing Point in dark blue with a special alloy nib in fine, and just quickly my first impression is much better than my first impression of the medium steel alloy nib. This is a nib that I could possibly use. That sounds like the steel alloy nib isn't good. My medium steel alloy nib was super dry, and my conclusion from that was that all steel alloy nibs would be super dry. This one doesn't feel like it, and so that's why I said it might be usable for me. On Wednesday, I made a little teeny tiny mistake, and I inked the Pilot Custom 74 in burgundy with a medium 14 karat gold nib. It's a tiny nib. With Vinta Lakbay, when I had originally intended the ink to be Lennon Toolbar Ying Piao. I feel like this leans more green, possibly because of the gold shimmer, and would, in the rainbow scheme of things, fit in better on this place. And in my monthly overview that I have right here, I will be adding this swatch right here, and I put Vinta Lakbay in the place that it is supposed to be. So I also then, because my plan was to put this ink in a Pilot Parallel, decided yesterday that there is no reason why I couldn't do that. And I have been greatly inspired by Aziza from Gourmet Pens. She has been doing lives, Inky Messes lives, using all of the special nibs. And I thought, you know what? I can do that too. And so I decided I was just going to ink this pen a Pilot Parallel with this ink, and I actually emptied out my sample and just eyedroppered this. Yep, I'm brave here. I eyedroppered this 3.8 millimeter Pilot Parallel with Vinta Lakbay, and so far so good. It looks really nice. I had not planned to put this ink into this pen, but now that it happened, I guess I'm rolling with it. I'm not sure I like the ink for writing. It constantly feels like it is stopping in a second. I would love to see this ink for inky messes in a Pilot Parallel. As mentioned, the ink feels super dry and cloggy. The pen is a bit narrow, but I love it anyway. The reason why I love it anyway is because this was my very first gold nibbed pen. And it is a workhorse pen for sure. I can throw anything into this pen and it still works lovely. Even with this shimmer ink, there is shimmer to be seen. It does concentrate in the beginning, but there is still shimmer in the end as well. I gave the ink a 6. I am measuring these inks here by the way that I like them for writing. Art inky messes do not count into this rating. Of course, this ink is totally usable in a Pilot Parallel with 3.8 millimeters. And I am extremely happy that I'm back doing that. The flow, I gave a 5. It's super dry, and the pen an 8 because the section is just so narrow. But that doesn't keep me from keeping this pen. It's just so great. So I don't really have many light blue inks with Shimmer Left. They are just not my jam. Well, now maybe if I'm going to go the Inky Messes route and I'm going to explore that a little bit more, it might be something for me, at least in sample form. The only thing that I could think of was to compare it to the Ying Piao, which looks a bit greener, especially with this, I think this is pink shimmer here. It makes it more leaning towards purple, whereas the gold on the blue makes it leaning more towards green. Other inks that I wanted to look at and compare would be Troublemaker Petrichor and Diamine Celadon Cat. This is definitely much more blue than the other three. And then lastly today, I inked my Benu Euphoria in Jazz with a fine nib with Anderillium, longest ink name ever incoming, Banded King Shoemaker Butterfly Blue. I really appreciate that this turquoise is somewhat muted. It might even be considered a teal. It makes it the perfect color in my eyes, as I sometimes feel blinded by Waterman inspired blue, for instance. The flow of the ink seems wet as it almost falls out of this nib onto paper. And the pen will always have a special place in my heart. It is comfortable. It was my first Euphoria, and every time I look at it, I still love it. I have considered maybe possibly selling this pen in order to purchase another Benu Euphoria so many times. And every time when I look at it again, I'm like, no, this is so deep. This has so much depth. I don't want to sell this pen. I don't really care that the grip section and the cap band are black. It works really well with this specific color scheme. It doesn't stand out too much, and so nope, I'm gonna keep this. This is mine. I gave the ink a 10, the flow a 10, the pen a 10. And this is what I mean. The Anderillium Banded King Shoemaker Butterfly Blue is just, it feels like it is darker somehow. It is not the same color as Inspired Blue. Inspired Blue is just a little bit more blue, more bright. It seems similar to Aqua Lagoon, but Aqua Lagoon seems to be more green. So, yeah, I don't know, friends. I don't know. Would you add this to your collection if you have Inspired Blue already? So I have this in a bottle. I have this in a bottle. I have this. This is a bottle. This is a bottle that I own. This is a bottle that I own. I think that's all. No, yeah. This one is a bottle that I own. This one is a bottle that I own. This is one. I think that's it. I think that's it. Would you add this one to that collection? I don't know. Maybe I need to make a teal turquoise ink drawer and then have a section, just a drawer for all of my teal green blues. I don't know. So this is all the pens and all the inks that I used. I really love this project. I love exploring and playing around, and I do have to admit I can't wait for it to end as well, because then I can dive into another project that inspires me, laughs at me right now because I can't really do it. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today. I hope you have a great weekend, great rest of your day. If you haven't played with anything that sparks joy, maybe now would be a great time. I hope to see you next time. Bye. You are in the way, like actually a lot. Can you move? Even more? Okay, this might work.